Good evening. Welcome to the December 7th edition of the Downers Grove Village Council meeting. In keeping with best practice guidance from state and local health departments, we continue to ask those who are in village buildings, including council chambers, to wear masks. As is our custom, we'll begin the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rosa, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Barnett,
Here.
Commissioner Jose,
Here.
Commissioner Wallace,
Here.
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit, here, Commissioner Colavani,
Here.
Commissioner Gilmartin,
Here.
Commissioner Glover.
Here. Good to see everybody tonight. Item 3 on our agenda concerns minutes of previous council meetings. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I move that the council adopt the November 16th, 2021 minutes as presented.
Second.
Any questions or comments from the council? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. Before we continue, I've got a couple of additional comments concerning public comments. Some of these you've likely heard before, but perhaps a necessary reminder tonight. Public comments portion of these meetings, both on agenda items and non-agenda items, is an opportunity for the public to address the council. While we try to be accommodating, it is not a debate, it is not a question and answer session. We have lots of opportunities. The village council has lots and lots of opportunities to be asked questions or to be engaged in one way, shape, or form. From the remarks portion of our website, to the email system, to CRC, to Coffee with the Council, and you can go old school and call every one of us. We'll get a message if we don't pick up, but you can contact any one of us any number of ways. The public comments section on the agenda is an intentional part of a structured meeting. So as you've heard before, please state your name for the record. Please keep comments to 5 minutes or less. Please avoid repeating what others have already said. Keep your comments to one visit to the podium per subject. Please address your comments to the village council, not to others in the audience. And remember, this is an opportunity to be heard, not a debate or an open discussion. So with that, is there anyone who has comments they'd like to address to the council on items not on tonight's agenda? Okay, seeing none, we will continue through our agenda. We have a public hearing tonight. Public hearing has to do with our tax levy. I'd like to call this public hearing to order. The public hearing has been called by the Village Council pursuant to the Illinois Truth in Taxation Law to consider the proposed 2021 tax levy of the Village of Downers Grove. Notice of this hearing was published in the Downers Grove Suburban Life newspaper on November 25th, 2021, and a copy of the notice and the proof of publication have been presented and are made part of the official record of this hearing. I'll summarize the procedures we'll follow for tonight's hearing. Village manager will summarize the proposed 2021 tax levies. I'll then ask any member of the council who wishes to make a statement or ask questions. There'll then be an opportunity for members of the public to make statements or comments, or to submit written statements or comments for the record. We'll then return to the council to see if anyone wishes to make an additional statement or ask additional question, and then the hearing will be adjourned. At this hearing, witnesses will not be sworn in. Verbatim written transcripts of the statements or testimony at the hearing will not be prepared. Dave, over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Barnett. Tonight's presentation may look familiar to all the council members and members of the public who've been following us in our budget and tax levy process, and that is because this is the exact same information that has been presented at several meetings, starting with a publication of the budget in late October. As a reminder, the Village of Downers Grove is just one of many taxing bodies that appear on your property tax bill and that levy a property tax. The Village of Downers Grove levy represents to the typical property owner about a 10% of their overall tax bill. The proposed total tax levy for FY22, which is technically the 2021 tax levy, is $16.89 million. That is an increase of about $1.1 million of the previous tax levy. That is an increase of about 7%. This is this increase is driven entirely by increases to the levy for the public safety pensions. Those contributions to the fire and police pension funds are required by Illinois state law, and we continue to levy that amount and make the required contributions to our fire and pension funds, fire and police pension funds. That 6.95% increase in the total tax levy translates for a typical residential property in the village of Downers Grove to an increase of about $51 in the total village portion of your tax bill compared to last year. So a typical house currently pays $736 to the village of Downers Grove. With this increase will be just over $787. That is a brief overview of the proposed tax levy, and staff is happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Thank you, Dave. Any questions or comments from the village council? Seeing none. Any questions or comments from the audience on the 2021 tax levy? Okay, we will return to the council. Any questions or comments? Still none. This is a little bit procedural, but it is part of the law, folks. So if you're looking at home trying to figure out what is going on with these crazy people, there are certain reporting and hearing requirements that are part of our process, and this is one of them. So as Dave has mentioned numerous times, and you've heard from us, you'll hear again a little bit later, because our process is fairly continuous from long-range planning and the priority action items and into budgeting. Many of these types of things do become a little anticlimactic at the end because they've been talked about in pieces for months at a time. So with that, I'll declare this hearing adjourned, and we will continue with the balance of our meeting. That takes us to item 7. We have a visitor tonight. Mr. Casa is here with a Economic Development Quarterly Report. Welcome, Michael.
Michael Casa. I'm the President and CEO with the Downers Grove Economic Development Corporation with offices at 5159 Mobile in downtown Downers Grove. Here to present our quarterly presentation. We start with the economic data. The municipal sales tax, unfortunately, the state has not reported September yet. It's like, I think, just a few days away. So the latest numbers that we have are from August. In August of this year, there was an increase of 12.5% over 2020, and an increase of 20.5 over 19. The reason we include 19 in these comparisons is it's probably easier to determine if we're sort of back on track compared to the terrible numbers we had a year ago. The home rule sales tax, very similar, a 19% increase in August of 21 versus 20, and a little over 13% increase over 19. The hotel taxes, so the percentage increase in October 21 versus October of 20 is 109%, and that of course is due to the fact that last year was a horrible year for hotels. Two of our full service hotels were actually closed for 4 months. Now, so a more realistic view comparison is comparing it to 19, which was a great year for hotels. And you'll see that it's down almost 37%. Now that may seem bad, except if you go back and look at the previous months leading up to October, they were far worse off than this. So the hotel market is recovering. it'll be a great day when we get that number into a positive total. But it was such a bad year last year that, and it continues to be a tough road for the hotels, but it is getting better. So that sector is on the mend. Also in October of 21, the food and beverage tax revenues, in October of 21 versus 20, there's an increase of 85.5%. And then the increase over October of 19 is 63, almost 64%. The restaurants have recovered well, and some of it's just sheer determination that they weren't going to let this virus beat them. So to all of our hotels, I think we only had two restaurants that actually closed their doors during COVID. One was going to do it anyway, was Fuddruckers. So our restaurants have just really hung in there, and they had the community rallying around them, which helped. I think the hotels would have liked to have some of that, but hats off to the restaurants, certainly Commissioner Glover and his colleagues. Let me just go over a few projects. Start with Steinhafels. This is the largest retail project in Downers Grove since 2015. 112,000 square feet, and they're having their grand opening this Thursday between 6 and 9 p.m. Hopefully everyone was invited, and hopefully you can attend. The next morning, on the 10th, Friday the 10th, they're going to have a brief ceremony where the CEO, Andrew Steinhafels, and the mayor will cut the ribbon. And then that's, I think, at 9:30, because right at 10 a.m., they're opening their doors and letting the public in. So this has been a great project. The people from Steinhafels have just been great to work with, and looking forward to the festivities later this week. Opus broke ground in November on their apartment development, and you see this photo is all the village officials that were at the event. So along with Steinhafels, Opus, and one more I'm going to mention, these are significant projects. I've already had 2 people who own commercial property around that area call me to say, hey, maybe we're interested in selling or doing a redevelopment. Hopefully the influx of residents with disposable incomes will lead to some additional retail and restaurant businesses coming in. Again, hats off to folks at Opus, and despite the weather, they had an okay turnout. And last of 3 I wanted to mention, Wood Spring Suites. They closed on the property in October. They're planning on breaking ground in the spring. This, of course, is on the southeast corner of Walnut and Ogden. And there is a restaurant pad adjacent to it that Holiday Properties owns. And we have been working with them, actually the Park District as well, have been working with them to try to identify a sit-down restaurant that will not only serve the hotel guests, it'll serve the corporate patrons across the street, and also when the Park District develops its sports facility, that hopefully will lead to some business for the restaurant. So we'll stay tuned. I think that's going to be like one of their priorities the next few months, is trying to identify that restaurant. Hopefully when they break ground in late winter, early spring, maybe we can break ground on a restaurant too. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. We mentioned 3 redevelopment projects. 1111 Ogden. This is the 4th Vequity project in Downers Grove. It is pretty much done. They have they're turning the keys over to the tenants, which include Noodles and Company, Athletico, and Tropical Smoothie. There's one other small restaurant, I believe, that's going to also locate there. And of course, this replaced the patio furniture store that had been there for a long time. So this is Equity's fourth deal, and I met them last week. They're ready to do another one. So they're not going to tire of us, I don't think. 925 Ogden. This is the former Sears hardware building, and it's going to become a daycare center. Higher Ground is going to be the user, and they're making progress on that redevelopment. And then 844 Warren. This is a project that's been in the works for a long time. COVID really put it on hold. This is the redevelopment of the northeast corner of Washington and Warren, the former car repair facility. The folks from Oakley Home Builders, as well as Todd Davies from Cadence, are doing this deal, and I'm actually meeting with them next week to kind of get an update from them on what would be their third restaurant in our downtown. A couple of outlots that are now being developed. Butterfield Plaza. There's an outlot that's available to them. They've been working with the village staff on that available outlot, and that is going to be a restaurant pad. And the other one is Downers Park Plaza, which is the shopping center that has Best Buy and Old Navy. One of the things I have found is that people don't know the names of the shopping centers. But in Downers Park Plaza, in fact, it may be on the agenda tonight, a Panera Bread is going to be going in there, relocating from Woodridge. So those are two outlots. We don't have a lot of outlots in Downers Grove available. So when we can get a deal for one, it's really good. Okay. A big part of what we do is recruiting tenants, big and small. So I wanted to mention 6 opportunities. We've been working closely with the staff on the attraction of 2 anchor tenants for the Grove Shopping Center. I'm fairly confident this deal is going to happen, and these businesses will be located on the Lamont side of the center. And if we can get the deal done, and I believe we can, then it will leave really just 2 inline vacancies, the former Toys R Us location and the former Marshall space. So this would be a big shot in the arm, not only for the center, but for those smaller tenants, especially the outlot tenants. So stay tuned. I wanted to specifically thank Stan Popovich for his work on this. So thank you, Stan. 3300 Finley, this is the former Fry's building. We are working closely with the new owners to identify a significant tenant for this center. They're looking to have one tenant take the entire building. They have pretty much done all the work they need to do on it. I mean, it's totally been gutted on the inside. And they've got Jones Lang LaSalle doing their marketing. So hopefully we will have a new business opening in the Fry's building. 1500 Branding, I had mentioned earlier, Fuddruckers had closed during COVID. That building is in demand. Whether it's a restaurateur or other kind of business. The upside to it is there aren't a lot of former restaurant locations available in Downers Grove, really anywhere. The only downside is they're not right on Butterfield. So hopefully we will have a deal in place to have that space leased out. 3500 Lacey. That's the largest office building in Downers Grove, 400,000 square feet on the southern end of the Esplanade campus. And we are working with them on the attraction of a very large corporate office project. They had me sign an NDA, so I can't disclose who it is. Hopefully I can soon. Hopefully we'll land them. This will create 600 jobs and will take anywhere between 175,000 and 220,000 square feet. 5300 Belmont. This is the former Magnetrol building where Bridge Industrial is building a new facility. Again, they're looking at maybe having one tenant here, maybe two. We're working closely with Cushman and Wakefield. There's been a lot of inquiry here. They're actually, if anyone's been following the industrial market, you know that it's actually a landlord's market because with the rise of e-commerce, it's hard to keep up with the demand. So they're really going to hold out to get a really good tenant there. So we'll keep you up to date on that. And last is 935 Ogden at the corner of Highland. This is the redevelopment of the small site on the southeast corner, and they were able to strike a deal to acquire some additional land as part of that project. Again, hats off to community development. We're working with them. But helping redevelopment projects are very, very important, but also keeping our buildings full is very important to us. So you may recall back on August 3rd, we presented our strategic plan, and it's the 2022 to 2026 plan, 5-year plan, and we are January 1st. We are it's sort of our goal to get this work on this fully up to speed. Let me mention two things. One is there's a series of key performance indicators in the plan, and so those indicators will begin. The clock will be running on them starting January 1st. We'll continue to report annual, monthly, and quarterly sales tax data, hotel tax data, and food and beverage tax data. The next meeting that I'll be presenting to you is our annual meeting. It's in March, and that's when we'll present our annual, the annual report on this data. And in addition to the stuff we've been reporting on, that data on an annual basis will include EAV data per sector, capital investment per sector, and occupancy rates per sector. Some of these others will be both annual and quarterly, but the report we'll be giving in March will be for 2021. The other part of the plan is the high priority action items, which those high priority ones are ones that have to be completed in 22. We follow the format that the village uses. Probably the major one that we're working on now is research on potential redevelopment and land assemblage sites on Ogden Avenue, and then research on the existing TIF with the EDC Executive Committee in January that will make a recommendation on a closeout strategy for the current TIF, which goes until 2025. I want to thank the village staff, Dave, Mike, Stan, Jason, for their help on this. One of the goals is to look at every possible assemblage. There just simply aren't those, perfect sites anymore on Ogden Avenue. And so whenever I speak to someone who wants to talk to me about their property, my question to them always is, tell me about your neighbors. Why do you want to know about my neighbors? Because your property's too small. I got to know who's on your left and who's on your right, and who's behind you. So that's part of this exercise that we're doing. Copies of our strategic plan were distributed on August 3rd. If anyone would like another copy, I'd be happy to send that to you electronically. I want to again thank the village for its tremendous support of the EDC, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Michael. Any council comments or questions for Mr. Cass this evening? Chris?
Yeah, it mostly goes to the analysis of how things are going. We've got some data here, so it seems like things are moving in the right direction from a pandemic standpoint as the economic data seems to be coming back. I think what just might be helpful, maybe not a question but a request, and you talked about the dashboard that's coming, so that may satisfy this already. But I think it's helpful because we're kind of looking at August data and then we're looking at October data, and I know it's just about what's available. If we can see that in relation to the previous months, right? So you talked about how
Sure.
like, well, hotel was up, but like, or it was down, but not down as bad as 2 months ago.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of context to that. And for me, it would be great to see just at the January to date,
Sure.
the data we have, and then we can kind of identify more of where things are moving in relation to that. I don't know if that's part of your dashboard exercise, but
It is, but I'm glad you raised it.
yeah,
Yes.
I just think for even this group, just to sort of see what the
The trend.
trend looks like rather than a snapshot,
Yep.
that would be helpful. But, based on what you've said and what we're seeing, it looks like things are improving in many, many areas, and it's great to see. I think the second part, in a similar fashion, you're presenting and talking about some of the opportunities of the different locations that we have of potential development. It might be good to keep that also aggregated in this presentation so we can kind of track those opportunities along. You're right, some of the addresses aren't as familiar to me, the locations as you describe them are. But just so we know as things are, we've got some ideas of deals that are potentially happening, let's also track what may be falling off because, there may be a new list. Just to
Sure.
kind of keep, at least from my perspective, I think it might be beneficial to the rest of us here, just to see sort of the progress of it rather than just, hey, this is what's happening, and then, next quarter, some of the stuff may get lost. We might be interested to see what happened to this deal or that deal. Not that we want to get into deal specifics, but just in terms of numbers, so we can see, are we doing a better job of developing or creating these relationships, or maybe we need more support around them.
Okay,
Yeah,
Great.
thanks.
sure.
Anyone else? Rich?
Do you know what the current office occupancy rate is?
I don't have that on me. I know that it's down. It's down everywhere in the United States. We are holding our own in Downers Grove, and part of that is because we have the newer office product. Compared to Naperville, Lyle, and Oak Brook, which in the city of Chicago, which are our competitors on the office side, our stuff's newer. But I will get you that occupancy number.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else? Nicole, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say thank you so much for your continued work, and really excited to see, I know you can't give a lot of information about it at the moment, but one of our catalyst sites, the Grove Shopping Center, finally maybe some potential development there. I know the community has been asking for years, what is going on in this center? COVID certainly didn't help, so really excited to see all of the redevelopment projects, particularly at that site, because it's been such a, it's been at the forefront for quite some time in the community, so thank you.
Welcome.
Anyone else? Thank you for being here, Michael.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Item 8 on our agenda tonight is the consent agenda. Is there a motion concerning the consent agenda?
Mayor, I move that the council adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries unanimously. Item 9, our active agenda. This is the portion of the meeting where we continue to discuss items we've discussed previously and plan to take action on them tonight. Is there a motion concerning the 2022 budget?
Mayor, I move that the council adopt an ordinance adopting the fiscal year 2022 budget in lieu of passage of an appropriation ordinance as presented.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments from the audience on the 2022 budget? Seeing none, questions or comments from the council? Greg, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank everybody for all of the hard work that went into creating this budget. We won a number of awards, and it wouldn't surprise me if we end up having to build a bigger trophy case with regard to this one. And I'm particularly excited about the inclusion of some of the items we're going to see later on tonight and additional things with regard to facilities. It's an exciting time in Downers Grove. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else? Just add for the audience, those watching at home, a couple of highlights. You've heard us talking about this budget now for several months. We've had a number of hearings, both here and elsewhere. Data's been available online as well. It's a balanced general fund. It has funding for facilities replacement and sustainability plan, one of the things I think Greg was talking about. There is no increase in the operations levy. It puts $6 million into streets, 5 into stormwater, and 7 into our water systems. Continuous investment into those things that we all count on every single day. There is also $830,000 of funding in this budget for our Economic Development Corporation and Downtown Management Corporation, a couple of our partners that the public really may not always know they rely on, but they in fact provide a huge value and really are an extension of our community efforts. And then also it includes the necessary funding for additional administrative duties related to the State Police Reform Act, something we spent some time talking about this summer, and it continues the funding of our recently added social worker position. There's a lot of good in this budget, and I think we should all be very proud of it. Any additional comments or questions? Rosa, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Wallace?
Aye.
Commissioner Glover?
Aye.
Commissioner Gilmartin?
Aye.
Commissioner Kolovany?
Aye.
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit? Aye. Mayor Barnett?
Aye. That motion passes unanimously. Is there a motion concerning the 2021 tax levy?
Mayor, I move that the council find and determine that the aggregate levy for the Village of Downers Grove, as defined in the Illinois Truth in Taxation Law, estimated to be necessary to be raised by taxation for 2021 upon the taxable property in Downers Grove, is $27,642,807.50. This amount is based upon an estimated levy of $4,058,169 for corporate and police, $2,935,500 for fire, $4,990,964 for police pension, $4,903,198 for fire pension, $5,862,439 for library operating, $790,975 for refunding bonds 2014 series debt service, $518,550 for refunding bonds 2015 series debt service, $745,500 for refunding bonds 2016 series debt service, $488,050 for stormwater bonds 2019 series debt service, and $1,829,218.50 for refunding bonds 2020 series debt services. The estimated levy for Special Service Area Number 6, Fairview Fire Protection District Special Service Area, is $120,244, and the estimated levy for Special Service Area Number 11, Downtown Downers Grove, is $400,000. The estimated levies is zero for the following special service areas: Area 4, Green Acres; Area 5, Atwood; Area 7, Dunham Subdivision; Area 8, Nelson Meadow Subdivision; Area 9, 35th and Saratoga Subdivision; and 10, Bridgepoint Downers Grove Subdivision. A public hearing was held on these proposed levies earlier tonight, December 7, 2021, in the Village Council chambers. The adoption of the proposed levies will be held on December 14, 2021 at 7 p.m. in the Village Council chambers. Staff is also directed to prepare ordinances to abate certain 2021 tax levies, and a partridge in a pear tree.
Is there a second?
Second. Especially to the partridge in a pear tree.
Any questions or comments from the audience? Questions from the council? Rich?
Yeah, I just want to know, is this your levy, Craig?
Absolutely, because I'm not reading that again.
I'm in.
Any other council comments or questions? So the truth of the matter is Greg drew the short straw there. For those watching at home and those watching at a later date, it is important to note all this information is available online. It's there. It's been there. It's there on purpose. Please spend some time with it. If you have any questions, you certainly can email any of us at any time. This is how a big portion of that budget becomes funded. It's just part of our process. So we'll continue to talk about this through the end of the year. Anyone else? With that, Rosa, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Wallace?
Aye.
Commissioner Glover?
Aye.
Commissioner Gilmartin?
Aye.
Commissioner Kolovany?
Aye.
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit? Aye. Mayor Barnett?
Aye. That motion passes unanimously. Item 10 is our first reading. This is the portion of the meeting where we either continue to discuss or begin to discuss items on which we do not plan to take official action tonight. We'll turn this over to Manager Fieldman in one moment. I just had a comment to tip it off. If you're watching at home or looking at your agenda, there are 22 items. You might be thinking to yourself, what is going on? There are really 4 subjects there. A new Panera Bread on Lamont Road, as was alluded to earlier by Mr. Casa, has a couple of items. Those that require drive-throughs require consideration from this council. There's a series of agreements between the Village of Downers Grove and our architects and construction management company as it relates to our facilities project. There's a declaration of intent to issue bonds for that project. And then there's a first reading of the tax levy, which we just took the official estimate of. So all that is 22 items long, which hopefully Dave will help us work through.
Well,
Dave,
you just
over
did
to
a great job of doing it, Mayor, so it literally took my notes right off my page, so I'll just introduce Stan Popovich to talk about the zoning request related to the Panera. Stan.
I'll be happy to start with the first 3, so I'm doing my part. So as Michael Casta noted, this is a discussion about the new Panera Bread. The official entitlements are a platted subdivision, plan unit development amendments, and a special use at 7361 Lamont Road. It's at the corner of 75th and Lamont Road. If we zoom in a little bit here, we can see the site outlined here in red. The site is in front of the Best Buy, TJ Maxx, and just north of the Taco Bell. If we look at the existing conditions of the site, we have 2 main entrances at this location. One is a full access, and the other one has a nice boulevard feel to it on the north side of the picture here. And then there's an internal circulation system throughout the shopping center as well, shown here. What the petitioner is proposing to do is to install a new Panera Bread at this location. You can see the gray square there would be the Panera Bread location. The existing curb cuts onto Lamont will remain, so there's no new curb cuts proposed with the Panera Bread. Access to the existing circulation system was shown here in the yellow arrows, and then there's a pedestrian connection onto the Lamont Road sidewalk as well here near the Panera. The drive-through lane, there are 2 lanes for the drive-through, and they're going to circulate counterclockwise from the northeast corner around to the southwest corner around the building that way. Here's the facades, the south facade and the west facade shown here. The proposal is to create this outlot here, so the red lines are the existing subdivided properties, and then the new lot for Panera here is shown in yellow. So that will provide for the Panera site. Petitioner is also providing easements and grants of access so that the Panera customers have rights to drive through the shopping center and get to all the exits as well. In addition to amending the PUD to allow the construction of the new building, a PUD amendment for the center's master sign plan is needed. You can see the 2 existing monument signs here for the shopping center are going to be located within too close to the setbacks that are required. So the PUD amendment will also amend the master plan for signs just for setbacks for these signs. The signs will remain the same. There's no proposed changes to that, so they'll remain within code compliance that way as well. Comprehensive plan notes this area is corridor commercial. It's a blend of neighborhood and regional retail, providing a range of uses on 75th Street. High level of design, and we got a lot of shared parking there as well. At the November 1st Plan Commission meeting, the Plan Commission found the platted subdivision requirements were met, and that the PUD and special use standards for approval were also met. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the council may have, and then Jason Rebert from the petitioners here as well to answer any questions that you might have as well. So, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Stan. Welcome, Jason. Any questions or comments from the council on this?
No.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the audience on this one? Jason, it's not a lack of interest. It's a good project that fits. Thank you for being here.
The
Moving
next
on.
3 items are related to our great facilities project, which we are well underway, and we are so pleased to have Deputy Village Manager Mike Baker present 3 contracts related to our facilities project. Mike.
Thank you, Dave. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Resolutions have been prepared approving contracts with FGM Architects and Leopardo Companies for design and construction of the new combined facility and related site work as part of the Facility Replacement and Sustainability Plan, or FRSP. At the Village Council meeting on September 14th, Council unanimously directed staff to negotiate contract terms for the design and construction of the FRSP with FGM Architects, or FGMA, and with Leopardo Companies. The Village has had an established contractual relationship with these firms, and they have played an integral role in the progress that has been made to date. Much of that progress was presented and discussed at the November 16th Council meeting. Both firms are qualified and capable of completing the design and construction of the work associated with this project. The contract documents presented for Council consideration include use of the construction manager at risk delivery method for designing and constructing the project. Under this delivery method, the Village holds separate contracts with the design firm and with the construction manager. One of the primary advantages of this delivery method is that both firms work as a team with Village staff throughout the design and construction process. The schedule for design and construction will allow the project to advance more rapidly and offers greater overall flexibility. In addition, the Village will obtain costs certainty earlier in the process. The contracts follow the American Institute of Architects standard forms for this delivery method. It's important to note that the A133 Exhibit A Guaranteed Maximum Price Amendment will be approved by the Council upon completion of design plans and submittal of the guaranteed maximum price. That's scheduled to occur in the second quarter of 2022. There's a lot of material in the Council packets related to these contracts, all of which has been extensively reviewed by staff. And I would like to thank Village Attorney Enzo Petrarca for leading the team that reviewed and prepared these contracts. We would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, Mike. Questions or comments from the audience? Seeing none. Council comments or questions? Greg, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mike, for the presentation. I've been fond of saying for a while that we've been in this building on a temporary basis since around the time Armstrong and Aldrin walked on the moon. And it's nice that that temporary stay here will be coming to an end. And these contracts represent the beginning of that end. It's been a long road just in the time I've been up here. We've had 6 different plants, I think, in the 8+ years that I've been sitting in one of these chairs. So many thanks to my council colleagues, to staff, especially staff for putting up with all of the different plan iterations, but especially to my council colleagues for picking this back up and getting it done. I wanted to point out one piece of the contracts that Mike talked about, the completion of the GMP, the Guaranteed Maximum Price, coming down the road. For those who are watching that have been particularly interested in how the building's going to be built and what's going to go into it, in many cases, in particular environmental sustainability items, that's all to be determined. Right now, we're talking about putting the design together, and what exactly goes into it is coming in future discussions. So I thought it was important to note that because we've had a lot of interest in it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'll just second what Greg said. He said it perfectly. Thank you. That's it. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. The next 2 items concern a bond issuance that will be part of our financial plan for paying for the cost of constructing the facilities that Mike just talked about. Here to present the background information on these 2 items is our Finance Director, Judy Butney.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We have 2 items, as Dave said, this evening related to the bond issuance for facilities and stormwater. The first is a parameters ordinance, which gives the village the ability to issue debt within the next 12 months as long as key parameters are met. The plan is to issue $40.5 million in bonds, of which 35 would be for facilities and 5.5 for stormwater. The 2 bonds are being combined to reduce the issuance costs. Market conditions may change by the time the bonds are issued in 2022, so the parameters have been set to give the village flexibility to respond to any changes. So the method of sale will be a competitive sale. The maximum principal will be $42.1 million. Maximum annual debt service payments of $3,850,000, a maximum interest rate of 5.5%, and When we get the deal together, this parameters ordinance authorizes the mayor to execute the bond order. In addition to the parameters ordinance, we have a reimbursement resolution. This allows the village to reimburse itself with proceeds from the bond issuance for money that we're spending now. Actually, it will predate the approval of this by 60 days. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Judy. Any questions or comments from the audience? Seeing none, council comments or questions? Those watching at home, this is the beginning of facilitating paying for our facilities project. We are spending some money, as has been mentioned right now, and we certainly plan to spend more, and this sets us up to be able to do that in an efficient, effective way. Thanks, Judy.
Thank you.
I want to go off script here, Mayor, to thank Judy for a great presentation, but pause for a moment to congratulate her on an exemplary career here at the Village of Downers Grove. Judy has served as our finance director for many, many years, arrived at about the same time I did, and it's just a quintessential professional, a technician, a great leader, great manager of processes, and most importantly, a great friend. Well respected across many municipalities and loved by the teammates that she works with every day. So Judy will be retiring in early January, and just wanted to take a moment to say thank you so much for an exemplary career. The following 14 items address the same information that has been talked about already twice tonight. So therefore, I will not make any further presentations, and that ends our first reading.
Thank you, Dave. How about manager's report? Do you want to read anything into the record?
There's nothing that can compare to tonight's attorney's report.
My favorite
You
meeting
ready?
of the year, yes, the attorney's report, where I get to present my report visually. So up on the screen are the 22 items I'd like to present. The first two deal with the Panera Bread, and then the next is the parameters ordinance that Judy just presented. The remaining are all the tax levies and the abatement ordinance. So happy to answer any specific questions, but that is all, Mayor. Thank you.
Seems a little bit wimpy. Just saying. After all that Commissioner Jose did.
Just shows you who's got the better job.
Thank you, Enzo. Item 13 on our agenda, council member reports. An opportunity for council members to comment on goings-on in the community, other groups they're associated with, other government bodies they're connected to. We'll start on my right. Commissioner Colavani.
No report, Mayor, thank you.
Commissioner Lukaszewski-Fugit.
No report, Mayor.
Commissioner Wallace.
No report, Mayor. Thank
Oh,
you.
my goodness. Commissioner Glover.
No report, Mayor. Thank you.
Commissioner Gilmartin.
No report, Mayor, thank you.
Commissioner Jose.
Clean sweep, Mayor.
I have no report. We are going to have a brief executive session tonight. Is there a motion concerning that?
Mayor, I move to convene into closed session pursuant to Section 2C1 of the Illinois Open Meetings Act to consider the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the village.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We will move to closed session. Thank you all. We will not be returning to the dais. Good night.